You,
Yes,
you are.
apologies. I couldn't unmute
it's okay.
myself
Senator Pauline O'Reilly, followed by Deputy Alan Farrell. Senator O'Reilly, 6 minutes.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to all of the contributors today. I suppose a couple of things strike me that sometimes when we talk about bullying, we're almost speaking about it after the horse is bolted. And I wonder if I could have your thoughts on being, more creative about, as you said, Coleman, that value system and empathy education. And also, I know that some other countries are looking at doing education that is actually, it's not having everyone from the same age in the same space at the same time, which creates a kind of competitiveness that can really drive that, because you've got everybody at kind of the same level of maturity trying to deal with something, and you've got a couple of adults there who they probably don't react to in the same way as they would a slightly older child. And is there something that we can do in our schools? I mean, I come from a very non-traditional background in terms of unschooling, but I do think it's worth looking at our school system and saying, if you took down all the walls from it and said, let's not try to bolt on something around bullying, but actually look at it really from a different perspective. I just wonder what your perspectives on that, rather than afterwards, what can we do at the start? And also, like the numbers for home education have increased, and certainly from my own experience in the past, half of those who did drop out of school were those who wanted to, but half of them were those who were had extreme bullying and traumatic experiences, and they're the half that we can really deal with. And now that we've seen that increase, I think now is an opportunity to see how the school system can be better placed to support people who want to stay there. So those are just a couple of points that I'd love to hear your thoughts on. I think that whole point about a democratic approach to dealing with bullying that you mentioned there, Coleman, is a really interesting one, and how to empower students in a way that they don't feel overwhelmed by the responsibility either to have to deal with something. But I would say on the whole issue of cyberbullying, I think probably all of us as adults have witnessed it, either as bystanders and not known how to deal with it. So an education for our children will actually probably make us healthier and stronger adults as well when we come out of that school system.
Yeah, if I can answer those questions briefly, I think what we're doing doesn't work. So anything that's creative and offers us a possible solution, whether it be something innovative around a mentorship system of something of the older child. It's interesting you mentioned about the homeschooling, the lockdown. There's some children who've thrived in lockdown because they have been spared that level of persecution, and the thoughts of returning to that has been really difficult. I think one of the interesting things as this conversation is mirroring, nobody has mentioned the tech companies who have a responsibility in this as well. And I think when we get to the cyber topic, that there has to be a buy-in from them as well. This is a platform of introduction as well, which they need to be supervising. But I work with young people in groups all the time. I've worked in inpatient units. The more you listen, the less they shout. And I think it is about involvement. It is about buy-in. It is about getting them to organically create the bystander upstanding policy from inside out, rather than trying to impose it outside in. And I genuinely, I think from the point of view of the first years coming into the school, the parents and every pupil gets sat down and says, this is our policy, sign it, sign up to. So when there is something that comes up, we can go back and say, well, that you committed to this approach, to this ethos of exploration and openness and whatever it might be. And it almost, again, holds some teeth as opposed to being a glossy kind of laminated sheet on the wall of little value, if that makes sense.
Thanks very much. If there's any thoughts that any of the others have, I'd be very interested to hear them.
Could I just come in there for a second? It's Mary Brody. One of the things I found very effective, Senator, and I thought very creative, was a particular school that I've worked with, that they brought me in with a colleague of mine, and we actually worked with, say, the first years, and we sat them down on the floor literally and got their thoughts around how they would treat one another, what would happen, get their thoughts into, you know, what were the challenges they were facing and so forth. And it was very successful. We also did this tree business where they left a message anonymously for their parents. So that evening we had a chat with the parents, and again, it was like what Dr. Noctor said, they all bought into being active rather than just lip service to something. So the school found that very effective. So then they would roll it out again for the second year. So they got 2 years of it and then introduced it to the first years. So in this particular school, before lockdown, we were up as far as transition years. So it has been rolled out from first year in the school. And I found that and the feedback from the school and the parents to be one of the most effective things around bullying and how they treated one another in all aspects of themselves. And it has proved to be very successful.
That's great. And I wonder if there are
Hayes, do you want to come
ways
in?
we can roll all of these things out. Thanks. Is my time up?
You know, Senator O'Reilly, Ms Hayes just wants to come in for a second, I think. Ms Hayes?
Yeah.
You're on mute.
Thank you. Just following on from Dr. Noctor's point, I think in terms of creative approach, it's really important in my view that we shift the conversation from the bully and the bystander. Bullying is a behaviour, and any person can experience bullying and also exhibit bullying. And to label someone as a bully can be detrimental. So I think in terms of changing this, we really need to go back to basics, question our language as adults, and work with the whole society, the teacher training colleges, the parents, working with Parents' Council, and working just the same as we don't throw plastic bags around, just the way we put our seatbelts on when we get into the car. That it's a very basic cultural shift, and that's what I would be very much advocating. Gormagrav.